Dr. Tim Hunt, and I'm here to speak to you all on the subject of women. Yes, more importantly, the experiences of women in science, which is something I happen to know quite a bit about, as my wife is a woman and a scientist. Now, I'm going to start my talk here today with words that will temporarily set my career back. I will, in fact, lose my position at the University College London and the European Research Council over public outrage, and a hashtag. But before I say these words, I must implore you, I am not a bad guy. My wife doesn't think I'm a bad guy. My female colleagues don't think I'm a bad guy. Imagine if every white man in their 70s who said a sexist thing on the world stage lost their job. You millennials would have that job security you keep talking about. Someone else would have the US nuclear codes. Mel Gibson would stop making movies. A lot of people would stop making movies. But here it is. This is what I opened with. Let me tell you my trouble with girls. 3 things happen when they're in the lab. They fall in love with you, you fall in love with them, and when you criticize them, they cry.
It doesn't take a scientist to understand what's going on, baby. If you see something in my eye that's not overanalyzed, don't go too deep with it, baby. So let be what we don't make a fuss and go crazy over you and me. Here's what I do, I'll be loose. It's just some little thing, but like everything you do, don't do. It's raising my adrenaline.
The internet didn't much like what Dr. Tim Hunt, or as I like to call him, Tunt, had to say about women in science and how they were distractions to their male colleagues. Twitter responded thusly, with the hashtag, distractingly sexy. Hi, I'm Mily, and I'm actually a scientist. I'm one of the ladies in labs that Tunt is talking about. You need the balls, don't you? Let's play a game. I'm going to talk about some of my past research, something intimate like my undergrad honors thesis, and every time you get bored, you're going to throw one of these balls at me. If you hit me, which good luck, they're not very aerodynamic, I'm going to take off a layer of clothing. Right? You're going to have a challenge over here, but I see you have wine, so you should be doing fine. All right, it's going to be like strip hook or dodgeball. Ready? So my undergraduate thesis in neuroscience was about the neurobiological and functional differences between psychopaths and normal subjects.
Oh.
Let's start with the unsonate fasciculus, which is a white matter tract connecting the ventromedial prefrontal and the anterior temporal lobe, specifically the amygdala. Diffusion tensor magnetic resonance imaging studies have shown microstructural abnormalities in the unsonate fasciculi of incarcerated psychopaths. Having fun yet? Now go on. Recent research has also shown differences in how psychopaths process information. For example, The emotions of others are not processed in the emotional centers like the limbic system, and you think, but rather in the planning centers like the prefrontal cortex. This suggests that psychopaths don't actually feel for people, but rather plan on the best ways of pretending to feel. It is in this way that they can see people as objects and as less than them. Do I have your attention now? Pleased to meet you. Now, if I did that in a lab, it would be very distracting. But that would be the point, because I would be about to fuck someone on a dissection table. I saw that look. No kink shaming here. We're just getting warmed up. So as I was saying, I'm a scientist. Specifically, I am doing my master's in science, looking at the potential for a virtual mental health system for long-term spaceflight. In fact, I was supposed to have a draft of my thesis done for the opening night of this show. Didn't happen. I'm a critical thinker. I rely on peer-reviewed research. I'm one of those assholes who thinks that vaccinations don't actually cause autism. And if you're more worried about your kid having autism than smallpox, you're gonna need more fun autistic people in your life. I have sliced mouse brains. I've built lasers. I've grown enough gram-negative bacteria to kill a small city, like Vanderhoof. So yeah, I'm one of those cold, heartless scientists you read about. I'm not quite Oscorp level, but I've seen some shit. Now you might be thinking, she's pretty gutsy for a scientist. Last I checked, nerds weren't really known for their public speaking skills. Well, you have to have a pretty thick skin to be a minority in any field. But to be a woman in STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, you have to wear a full-on robo-mech suit. That's why Ripley was so good at fighting xenomorphs in that mech suit in Aliens, because as an astronaut and a lady, she'd been living in one her entire career. You have to take a lot of criticism as a gal in science, because not everyone actually believes that you're supposed to be there. And no, you can't cry at said criticism, no matter what Tunt says. Women have been getting PhDs since 1678. And to do so, you have to be criticized by an entire room of superiors for hours and not cry. Except maybe after. Alone. Because you haven't bathed, cut your toenails, or had someone go down on you for 5 years. I think the reason why women have to wear these mech suits is because seeing women in scientific fields isn't considered normal yet. Which just doesn't add up, given the evidence of women in STEM since the beginning of time. Well, not the beginning of time, but the beginning of humanity. Let's play another game. On the count of 3, I want you to name all the female scientists you can think of without Googling. And as an extra challenge, you can't say Marie Curie. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Roberta Mondar.
She sort of invented DNA, but...
She invented DNA? I didn't even know about that one. That's like, wow. Now, don't feel bad if you don't have anyone to say, because even though there are a lot of them, we don't learn about these women, which is wild, which is why I'm here to talk about the experiences of female scientists, myself included. Now, where am I, Sam?
If you went over them all.
Ah! If you went over them all, we would be here a lot longer than any of us would enjoy. So, I did what any self-respecting person making an offbeat comedy show does, and I wrote a song about it. I dedicate this little number to the ineffable musical genius of a little band called the Animaniacs. Hypatia, astronomer, math whiz, and philosopher put ancient dudes in their place. Valentina Tereshkova, engineer and explorer, was the first woman in space. Katie Lamar, a gorgeous film star, invented Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Marie Curie, physics and chemistry, in both she received Nobel Prize. Ada Lovelace, the daughter of famed poet Byron, wrote the first computer software. And then there's Grace Hopper, an admiral baller, stunt coding could kill with a stare. And Noether, Lise Meitner, and Maria Mayer, Solana, and Ching Chung Wu. All math geniuses, astrophysicist, and help you'll be atom bomb too! Catherine Johnson and Margaret Hamilton wrote code to help spaceships fly. Rosalind Franklin got all the roads and we were really shit guys. Come on, sing with me! Only 60 more verses to go! I can cut the music. I noticed you weren't singing. Extra fun send you. You see all these shining, beautiful faces behind you? They're your team. You're letting the team down. I know forensic entomologists who can sing better karaoke than you. They pull bugs out of dead people for a living. And they can belt! Okay, because someone wasn't paying attention, we're going to go over everything from the beginning. In detail. Starting with Hypatia. Hello! I am Hypatia. It's 415 BCE. Welcome to my Neoplatonic school. Prepare to be schooled in astronomy, mathematics, and philosophy by the top scientist, the OG badass bitch of Alexandria. Worship! One chapter. Excellent. Welcome class to 415. Welcome class of 415. I hope you do better than 414. Boys, your dormitories and mandatory bathhouses are over here. There are complimentary cow skins and lube. Who knows what you'll find in Steve? Girls, and everyone else, your dormitories are over here. Have fun, let loose. And if any unwanted togas come calling, just do what I do and show him your menstrual rags. Because even though people are washing their mouths out with urine and sharing butt sponges, periods gross them out. It's like, Hypatia actually used to do this. So if she had any unwanted suitors, she would present her bloody pant. And it was effective! Come on, uterus folks in the audience. Imagine some dude is like grinding up on you in the club. So to get rid of them, you just pop out your diva pep and sploosh! Worship! I think it's time for me to get to know my class a little bit better. Sorry, you're lovely.
Oh.
Yeah. What's your name? Matthias. Is that right?
Yes,
Matthias?
correct.
I like how that sounds in my mouth. Do you wish to lie with me? Feed me grapes.
Oh, fantastic.
There's no way to pleasure a woman orally. Come with me. Oh my grapes. That's how disgusted I was at your performance. Stand there for me. He can take direction! Now massage my shoulders while I monologue. Harder! Thank you. I love my life. I love men. Oh, you know what I'm not looking forward to? The all-bitch afterlife. Oh, can you imagine the competition? I mean, yes, Merita, we know you were the top surgeon for the pharaohs, but we're all royalty in one way or another. And Edwana, just because you've been writing star poetry since 2300 BCE doesn't mean it's any good. She writes a few theories on astronomical measuring, and suddenly she's space Shakespeare. I mean, look at this. Weak metaphors! It doesn't even rhyme! You can go harder. You're sort of like patting me. I know I'm sweaty, but like, get in there. And it's already gee, that's cute. I invented a field. I just wish we could all get along. You know, we're all in this together. So, do you wish to lie with me still? Too bad you can't. Let me take your seat. Now, the reason why he can't, it isn't because he's not wonderfully attractive with his curly, cute hair and glasses. It's because I'm about to be murdered by Christian zealots. They will tear me from a carriage, beat me with stones and shells, chop my body up into tiny pieces, and then burn the pieces. All because I'm all about that fake news with my pursuit of science and reason. Thank God things have changed. So yeah, lady scientists have been here since the beginning. Hypatia was rocking out from 360 to 415 CE. Or AD, for those of you who still use that sexy bearded magic Jew as a measurement of time. And I wish that I had known this sooner, because I didn't have a lot of female scientist role models growing up as a kid. Well, except on Star Trek, because they've been putting women and people of color as officers and captains for decades. In fact, my passion for exploring the universe was one of the first I can remember, which brings me to my next presentation, a work of stunning literary achievement that I wrote when I was 5. Lights, please. Space. Space is dark. Here, I may be referring to the Olbers paradox, which is the argument that the darkness of the night sky conflicts with the assumption of a bright, eternal universe full of glowing stars. But in fact, we now know that the universe is expanding and approximately 15 billion years old. And as the stars travel away from us, the wavelengths of light dim to red and then fade to undetectable darkness. There is no air in space. Even as a young child, I understood that space was a hard vacuum, containing a low density of particles, mostly a plasma of hydrogen, helium, electromagnetic radiation, cosmic rays, and dust. It ends suddenly. I think to remind us that life is fleeting, and there's truly no sense to the chaos of the universe. Thank you. Recently found that masterpiece in my mom's basement. I also found this poem. Polio! Polio is no fun. Polio? Polio! Iron lung. Polio? Polio is no fun. I was a weird kid. I wrote that in grade 1. In grade 2, I wrote up a petition about all the reasons why I should be allowed to watch Bill Nye the Science Guy. Despite it being on YTV and therefore a commercial television network, and I was not allowed it, I got all of my classmates to sign this petition. My hippie socialist dad was so excited that I was exercising my democratic peaceful protest skills that he let me watch the show, even though he still didn't really understand why I liked science so much. I went through many phases as a kid about what I wanted to be when I grew up. Paleontologist ballerina, veterinarian movie star, marine biologist comic book writer, coroner and the person who gets to name paint colors. But something I've always wanted to be, just kind of waiting on the back burner, is an astronaut. I remember reading a book about real female astronauts. Valentina Tereshkova, the first woman in space.
Yay!
Yeah. Mae Jemison, a doctor and the first black woman in space. Julie Payette, our Governor General and the very first Canadian on the International Space Station. I learned about how the first astronauts from Iran, Korea, and Britain were all female. 3, 1, 2, 3. Amazing! You did great. I learned about how women had been a part of NASA since the beginning, working as computers, as coders, and communications. And I thought, damn, this is possible. I could go to space. I could find circa 1977 Luke Skywalker. I would fuck the shit out of him. So last year, the CSA, the Canadian Space Agency, the Canadian Space Agency, I haven't even had any wine. You guys have all had wine. I have that, the Canadian Space Agency was hiring 2 new astronauts. Now, about 10 different Facebook friends messaged me the call. And at first, I thought they were just having a laugh because they knew I liked space. But then I looked at the minimum requirements to apply and realized that I met them. Applied degree in science, experience in IT, fluency in English and basic levels of French and Russian, vision parfait, et mon petit sprova de Gibraltar. The instinct to look up when the alien is on the ship and suddenly no longer behind you, that sense to not poke at giant egg-like life forms between 5'3" and 5'11", the list goes on. And so, I fucking applied. Now this list was one. It started out with a bunch of logic and math problems that you would find in first-year calculus. The next part was all social logistical questions.
1. Hal and Dave are working on a project you were leading. Hal comes up to you and says that Dave is going against mission protocol and doing something that compromises the project. Do you A. mediate the situation with Dave without going to his superior?
I don't think you should do that, Dave. Well, fuck you.
B. Go straight to his superior to help you investigate. This mission is too important for Dave to jeopardize it.
Yeah. Dave is compromising the mission. Holy shit.
C. Let Hal deal with it.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal. I'm sorry, I'm afraid I can't do that, Dave.
Or D. This conversation serves no purpose anymore.
This conversation serves no purpose anymore.
2. A member of your team has fallen ill after being attacked by a strange life form. They are a weird shade of gray, and they start coughing horribly. Do you A. make them comfortable on a table, see what happens?
Come over here, John Hurt. Lie down over here. Oh, you look terrible.
B. Give them some NyQuil and hope they sleep it off.
Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, astronaut colleague.
C. Quarantine them in the sick bay so they're separated from you by a lot of flappy, clear plastic.
Perfect.
Or D. Shoot them out the goddamn airlock.
You can't do this. I have to. But we were lovers. None of that matters anymore. What? I put D for the record. It might have cost me some empathy points. The next section on the application was all about computing and technological know-how, which I aced, because I'm a genius. I mean, I used to be. My title got revoked when I quit my job at Apple recently. But at least it satisfied the computing portion of the astronaut application. Now, being a genius at Apple is not actually as easy as the overconfident title would suggest. The most common comments I get at work, besides, "What do you mean I lost all my nudes?" And, "I didn't get liquid on my MacBook." Who would do such a thing? Is, "But I asked for a technician." Or when they're trying to be nice, "Well, you're very pretty for a technician." Or, "Do you come with my replacement iPhone?" Or, "You know, it's nice to see women in computers. I never see women in computers." Which always makes me want to say, "Really? What do you usually see in your computer?" I mean, that white crusty stuff on your keyboard is for sure not icing, because you were eating a donut while typing. We know it's your jizz, Matthias. full of jello. Your computer is 85% jello, ma'am. And these kinds of wacky-ass backward comments would happen on the daily. All the other girls on the tech team would report the same things. And it's these kinds of comments that eventually led me to leave my job at Apple and focus on my master's degree. And at first I hated myself for it. I mean, I wanted to be there every day in my pencil skirt and red lipstick, confidently fixing people's shit, just to add to the number of femme faces that were there doing just that. But the constant sexism of the general public, not my coworkers, bless their souls, wore me down. Because people are still legitimately surprised to see women in computing, which I think is hilarious, because the first computers were made of women. Just women in a room doing math. It's the truth. All the tech bros don't want to admit it, but their field was built by women and a gay guy. Alan Turing, absolute genius, God rest his soul. But who were these women? Whose guidance I seek on a daily basis to help me fight the men who explain to me how to plug in my computer at conferences, who call me baby doll, who yell at me after I explain to them that, no, so you can't get your music on your iPod back onto your computer now that you've erased your iTunes music library because, yes, iTunes does only work one way, and yeah, it is one of the greatest mysteries of the universe, and hold a seance for Stevie! It's not my problem! So who were the women who built the computer as we know it today? Well, there were a lot of them, so I'm going to need a lot of lady volunteers up on stage to help me explain the process. Ooh, chest burster. Who wants to be Ada Lovelace? Yeah! Come up on stage. My hands are so sticky, I'm sorry. Now, Ada's mama didn't want her to end up like her hot boy poet papa, Lord Byron, so she made sure she was extra good at math, and it paid off. She wrote algorithms for Charles Babbage's analytical engine, which was the first computer software. Can you mime write some algorithms for me?
Yeah.
I love it. Love it. Yeah, you'll see why in a second. Okay, who wants to be next? During the 19th and 20th century, it was actually very common for women to work as computers, doing mathematical calculations for major research. Here. Oh, yeah. It's okay. It's okay. Henrietta Leavitt was one of these such computers, and she actually discovered the relationship between the luminosity and distance of stars, which made modern-day astronomy possible. So what you're going to do is you're going to sit here and be luminous. I promise it's not as terrifying as doing a solo show in your underwear in front of a bunch of Who's next? Next we have the code breakers of Bletchley Park. Who wants to break some codes? You guys are so enthusiastic. I love it. I'm going to start stealing people. I knew that was yuck. The code breakers of Bletchley Park helped break Enigma during the Second World War. You're going to break codes like this. Yeah, just like connect up with them. You got it. You got it. It's arm day. Work it. Next, we have the team of ENIAC, the first electronic computer programmed entirely by women. You're averting your gaze, which means you're next. Okay, you're gonna program. Yeah, you got this. Next we have Catherine Johnson. Who successfully calculated putting a man into orbit for the Americans by hand, on paper. You're gonna like pick up a piece of paper?
Okay.
Yeah, you got this, you got this. Beautiful. Now we have Grace Hopper, who is not only a Navy admiral, but created the first word-based coding language. Now, it didn't matter what kind of computer hardware you had, big, small, floppy, hard, women could deal with it all, just like we always have. Navy admiral. Yeah. Last, but certainly certainly not least, we have Margaret Hamilton, who coined the term software engineering because coding wasn't seen as a legitimate field back in the day. I bring my wine. You obviously do not know what kind of code this is. Okay, so you're just going to go, because Margaret Hamilton was the in-flight software engineer for the Apollo missions as well, you're going to do this. Can you touch your shoulders? Houston, we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. Yeah.
Houston, we have a problem.
Houston, we have a problem.
The computer! This is the most women I've seen on stage ever! Thank you very much for taking the smaller audience tonight, so it's just like, oh my god, we can have enough people for the audience participation. So, because of all this, why aren't women dominating computers today? Well, there's a few different reasons. Despite the first home computer being owned by a woman, they were originally marketed as a tool for boys and men. Computer science programs at universities and colleges started wanting people with hands-on experience with computers. Again, boys and men. Once software engineering gained street cred as a field, men started taking it over professionally. Bill Gates and Steve Jobs hit the scene, cementing the idea of the computer nerd as a role in science that could only be played by WG squared. White men with glasses. And don't get me wrong, some of my best friends are white guys with glasses. But I think it's this societal bias that is why when I show up to fix someone's computer or present my research in applied AI systems, people are confused why I don't have a turtleneck and a schlong. The next part of the astronaut application was all about the physical exertion tests. Now, only the last 50 people would actually go to Ottawa for these tests, but you were expected to be able to meet them at least. Now, I thought this was just going to be a bunch of running and carrying heavy oxygen tanks and doing cool flips in 0G. Like that. No! I had to hold my breath underwater for 2 full minutes, tread water for 20 minutes, and then after all this, swim 100 consecutive laps. Now is probably a good time to explain that I am deathly afraid of swimming pools. Not water. I will happily swim in lakes or the ocean, but it's taken me the better part of my adult life to get over my fear of swimming pools. And I generally avoid the deep end, and I will definitely not go in alone. So the idea of floundering around in a deep Olympic-sized swimming pool was way more terrifying than burning up in a space capsule on entry. But I had to try. And so I packed up my impractical bathing suit and my lucky towel. Isn't it majestic? And I went to the YMCA. And quickly realized I did not belong there. I was in the Young Man's Christian Association, a young woman atheist in a dissociative state brought on by fear. But I had to try. And thankfully, I was not alone in the pool. Aquasize was in full ABBA-fueled swing.
If you change your mind,
And an elderly man in a pink inner tube was already in the lane beside me. And so I got in the pool.
if you need me, let me know. I'll be around. If you got your place to go, bring them down. If you're all alone, with a pretty birds have flown on the still free. Take a chance on me. But I do my very best to change your life. If you put me to the test, let me know. Take a chance on me.
I started out doing sort of a front butterfly chest crawl. And I was quite speedy and gasping at regular intervals, so I thought I was doing quite well. I got a little freaked out as I neared the drop-off in the pool, but I just used this as motivation to get back to the shallow end faster. And thus I continued for about 5 laps before I swallowed half a liter of water and had to pause for air. I'm going to have to learn how to sport a lot harder if I'm ever going to make it to space. Honestly, I don't know why I'm so afraid of swimming pools. I mean, logically, in a lake you can't see the bottom. It shouldn't be more terrifying. But I think it's the fact that you can see the black expanse of nothing all around you in a pool makes it so much more terrifying. I have nightmares where I'm sinking to the bottom of a deep swimming pool. And I can see there's a bunch of people above the surface looking down at me. But they're not doing anything. There was this line that I kept seeing at the end of books and magazine articles and Wikipedia pages when I was researching female scientists. And then she died in obscurity. To me, that's an even worse fear, sinking to the bottom of a pool of lost knowledge. I'm one of those shitty people who really wants to be famous for something. I want to be remembered for something I made or did or discovered. I don't want it to come out decades, centuries later that someone took credit for my work. I don't want to be another woman fucked over in science. I don't want to be killed by Christian mobs like Hypatia. And given the way the world is going, that is becoming more and more likely. In fact, I think my arms swelled. In fact, if we go by their version, the really wacky one that doesn't believe in evolution, the first woman was a scientist, really, when you think about it. And she got fucked over hard for her discoveries.
Welcome to the jungle. We've got fun and games. We've got everything you want. Honey, we know the names. We are the people that can find whatever you may need. If you've got no money, honey, we got your disease in the jungle. Welcome to the jungle. Watch it bring it to your knees.
Hi, I'm Eve, first woman. I know, pretty shapely for a girl made out of some dude's rib. Now I have this idea, an idea that will one day be called a hypothesis. I found this the other day. It's very juicy looking, like very juicy looking. My hypothesis is that it will also taste juicy and delicious. And I even asked the snake over there who was eating one, and he said that it was. So I'm gonna test it. Oh. It is juicy and delicious. Oh, fuck, I'm naked! Adam! Adam! We're naked! Remember when I said your floppy bits were kind of weird and you should cover them up? Turns out I was right! I was right about a lot of things. Being the original seeker of knowledge, that you look weird naked, that apples are delicious, and the pursuit of peer-reviewed research is important. And yet, men are always taking credit for scientific discoveries. In fact, now that I have you trapped with my exotic dance and strategically placed leaves, let's talk about the gender binary, shall we? Take, for example, that the male brain is biologically more suited to math and science. Not true! There are individual differences between brains, of course, but none that correlate with gender presentation or whatever fun you had between your legs when you came out of your mom's vajay. Furthermore, neuroscience now widely accepts that socialization actually strengthens the tracks in the brains that are more important. Gender roles are socialized. Gender is a construct. I was made up by a bunch of guys who wrote a best-selling paperback. Everything I am is a lie! And, I mean, Adam ended up taking credit for my discovery in the end anyway. I don't have an Eve's apple. But some women have Adam's apples. Being woke is complicated. Oh, you thought these were my nipples. Turns out they were magnets the entire time. Now, for a brief but still frustrating history of men taking credit for women's discoveries in science, I'd like to play a game I like to call the glory holes. Now, I'm gonna need 2 volunteers for this again. 1 male identifying folk and 1 female identifying folk up on stage. And there is a reward, a very sweet reward. Who wants to come next? You don't have to actually stick your dick in anything.
Well, what's the point then?
Yeah! We have another? You can go up again if you want. Everyone's like, no, I've seen the weird shit you do up here. I don't want to do that at all. Yeah! The 7 p.m. audience are just not ready for weirdness. Okay, I'll get you to stand over here, and you to stand over here. Now, what's going to happen is I'm going to read out a discovery or invention, and you have to guess whether it was invented by a man or a woman. And when you're going to guess, you swipe this pop light, because it's fun. If you get it right, you get a donut hole. Ooh. Now, the donuts didn't have anything to do with the study design. I just wanted an excuse to eat donuts on stage. All right, ready? Discovered the parity law of physics. Yes.
Woman.
Woman. Ching Chung Wu, a Manhattan Project scientist. Nobel Prize went to her male colleagues, though.
Oh.
No. It's going to be a theme, guys. Developed the first model of nuclear fission. Yes.
Woman.
Yes, Lise Meitner in 1939, but the Nobel Prize went to her male colleagues, though, so you get that. Inventor of the stiletto heel. Yes? Man, Salvatore Ferragamo. Discovery of the structure of DNA. Recall question. Yes? Woman. But Watson and Crick used her work to get the Nobel Prize, which is why you don't share your X-ray crystallography pics or nudes with the wrong dude.
That's a full of donut.
Usually I give it to him, but that's just the joke of the game. Inventor of the tampon.
Woman.
Man.
Oh.
I know. Earl Hans invented the modern-day tampon in 1929 and has been soaking up the glory ever since. Okay, more for me. Invented replica plating, or an extra good way of copying goop from one petri dish to another.
You don't have any hands. Well, that's good. Woman.
Woman, Esther Liederberg, also discovered the lambda bacteriophage, and is the reason why this show was almost called You, Me, and Petrie. Discovery of the pulsar.
Woman.
Jocelyn Bell Burnell. But the Nobel Prize went to a dude who happened to be in the room at the time. Okay. People are usually so greedy with these. I'm impressed at your restraint. Inventor of the vibrator.
Man.
Man.
Yeah,
You're
you
correct.
like this.
You want one more? Okay, one for the road. Excellent. You may take your seats. Thank you. Funny story about the vibrator. It was invented by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. No, that's the name of my vibrator. Joseph Mortimer Granville, who was a Victorian doctor who originally made the contraption to relieve muscle pain in men, and then found it was very good at giving ladies pelvic massages, which is exactly what you think it is. Medically jerking off horny ladies was the current cure for hysteria, the symptoms of which range from hallucinations to erotic fantasies to a refusal of womanly duties. To be fair, when gender roles and sexy thoughts get me down, I diddle my skittle too. There's also a legend that Cleopatra prototyped the first vibrator by putting angry bees in a slim gourd. Bees? Alright, I want to get personal. Like real personal. I want to talk about sex.
Let's talk about sex, baby.
That's how you worked. Yes. Now, the next part of the astronaut application was all about terrestrial attachment. Whether or not you were married or single, whether or not you had kids. I'm happy to say that I have no terrestrial attachments, which makes me an ideal candidate. I mean, I have my cat, Ripley. That's actually his name, not a throwback joke. But I think when I'm gone, someone could take care of him. He'd be fine. Like, I don't date much, or have sex much. I mean, I like it, and once in a blue moon, there's someone I'm interested in, but usually it goes horribly wrong, or they think I'm weird and a monster and don't like me back. I mean, I just took up Star Wars cross-stitch, guys. I am not sexually fulfilled. I mean, think about how many scientific discoveries, films, plays were written because someone was like, well, I'm not getting any. What else can I do to feel accomplished? I know, other healthy passions. I'm very lonely, guys. I'm not gonna run over a bunch of perfectly nice strangers in a van about it. And I've never really found myself attractive, you know. And I've also found that being smart isn't necessarily an attractive quality to people all the time. I always expected that the boys, and later also girls, that I liked to be wowed by my encyclopedia of facts that I would always have at the ready. But I was a know-it-all. I watched my very smart female friends play dumb around the guys they liked. I've had conversations with my adult friends now who remember doing this, and they said that they did it to feel more cool or likable. I didn't want to be cool. I wanted to have all the answers. And as much as being a know-it-all wasn't cool, I also found out that some parts of my body were going to be sexualized, whether I liked it or not. In middle school, a rumor started that I was a top student and got out of some of my classes, not because I had finished all the work already, but because I was sleeping with our teacher. Yeah. Imagine me at 13 years old. Now, I was an early developer, so I had to already deal with assholes snapping my bra straps and how to train my boobs not to hit me in the face while playing soccer, which is a real thing, by the way. But I had to deal with being slut-shamed before I'd even kissed anyone. Now, imagine me in middle school. Greasy hair covering one side of my face, all in black, because I wasn't quite a punk, wasn't quite a goth, kind of like a German nihilist band kid. And having a gaggle of teenage cool girls yell at me, "Hey, Double D's! How was your sleepover with Mr. D? How many blowjobs did it take to get out of socials this time? That he gave you an A+." I got to the point where I started eating my lunch in the science lab, under a table, alone in the dark. Hey. Now, I was very used to being bullied for being a nerd. I dealt with it by taking further pride in my nerdness. But suddenly they were trying to discredit this, as if a part of my anatomy suddenly rendered my intellectual ability null and void. And this was the point where I decided that before I was going to be seen as hot, I was going to be seen as smart. Because for the first time, of many to follow, I was shot down for trying to be both. As I was forming my nerdy identity early on in life, I found that as soon as I wanted to feel pretty or sexy, my intellect was more likely to be questioned. Because a woman apparently can't be smart and sexy at the same time. And because of this, I've kind of always thought of myself as this unsexy thing. I've typecast myself as the nerdy best friend. I'm the Willow to my best friend's Buffy. I'm the Velma to the Daphne. I'm Barb. I am Barb! While my best friend is having sex with boys, I'm getting eaten alive, and no one is going looking for me! I'm still sore about that. I can understand the urge to just lock yourself away, to retreat to a castle on the top of the hill, the musty stacks of the library, to sort of reject society, as society has rejected you, and become the witch. The patriarchy has been witch hunting for years. The church turned any woman with land, money, and a modest herb garden into a devil-canoodling heathen fit only for the stink. We got our pointed hats from the 15th century alewives, who used to be the sole brewer of beer in every village. They'd make beer in cauldrons. And put a broom outside when the brew was ready for sale. It wasn't until this pesky Spanish Inquisition who no one was expecting, decided that beer would be a good resource for men in power to control. So like our land and our money, our herbs and our knowledge, those fucking hipsters also pilfered our beer. But what makes a woman choose the witch life? And I don't mean Wicca and witchcraft, legitimate religion. I mean, what drives a woman to shut herself away and genetically engineer flying monkeys to do her bidding? Well, because they, too, find themselves a paradox without a place in the world. Genius! With work unnoticed, underappreciated. Think about it. Every storybook spinster has the powers, the spells, the monkeys. But they get tired, damn it. Tired of having their patents and property stolen. Tired of being seen as boobs before being seen as brains. But at the end of the day, still too assertive to get the Prince Charming. It's enough to make you want to claw your own eyes out and replace them with glass ones. Enough to shroud yourself in cobwebs. It's enough to give up. You don't want me? Well, then I'll make myself disgusting. You want me to be decorative for you? Well, then feast your eyes on this. I admit that the witchy spinster life is a very alluring one. But just because I like being independent doesn't mean I necessarily want to be alone. I mean, history is full of women who got married and had babies and were female scientists at the same time. We can have it all. If by it all you just mean what men have had since the beginning of the current heteropatriarchy. But it does remind me, I have so much icing on my, I don't even know how it got there. It does remind me of a question that kept coming up again and again on the astronaut application in various different ways. Why do you want to go to space? Why do I? Space is dark. There is no air in space. Is it because I felt like there wasn't really a place for me on Earth? Now, I made it through many rounds of the astronaut application before I finally got an email saying that I had been cut right before the physical trials in Ottawa. Now, at least they didn't have to watch my pasty butt flail around like you guys did. At first, I felt pretty discouraged. But at least I knew more about what they were looking for and how many fighter jets I would need to learn how to fly before I applied again. There are a lot. But it's hard. I feel like every time I fail at something, even something as lofty as becoming the next Canadian astronaut, I feel like I have to prove myself even more. I feel like I've let women down. The sexist bully in the back of my head is constantly saying that I didn't get this or that because I'm a girl, because I'm not good at math or science, that I'm not cut out for it. But I have to tell you, there are women all over the world who are constantly fighting this bully with me. And they're not just in our brains. They're on our TVs, on our Facebook feeds, in the news, constantly telling us over and over again that we can't do this. Nevertheless, we fucking persist. What's it like being a woman in science? It's no one remembering your name. It's getting killed by angry hordes. It's getting pushed out of patents and prizes and entire fields that you created. It's as dark as space, and it's as isolating as a swimming pool alone. It's enough to make anyone cry, Dr. Tunt. Anyone. And so, to all of those amazing female scientists throughout history who didn't get the recognition that they deserved, who did die in obscurity, I salute you. Know that what you did allowed us female scientists to be here today. And if there's anything I've learned from all these women, it's that I shouldn't have to downplay anything about myself to make other people feel more comfortable. So, I'm Millie. I'd like to think I'm pretty sexy. Ow! And I'm a goddamn scientist. Yeah!